After months of campaigning, the first presidential contest is now in the books, and the Republican presidential candidates are looking towards New Hampshire after former President Donald Trump's record-breaking victory in Iowa last night. The GOP frontrunner won 51% of the vote in Iowa's GOP caucuses, beating his nearest rival by 30 points. Now, just under 15% of the Hawkeye state's registered Republicans braved the frigid weather there to participate. They are hardy souls. And today, Trump, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley are all visiting the next state up, New Hampshire, where polls show a much tighter race. We're going to get to all of that now with Caitlin Huey-Burns and Finn Gomez. Caitlin is CBS News political correspondent. She's in New Hampshire. And Finn is CBS News political director. He is in Des Moines, Iowa, still standing after a lot of very long days. That's impressive indeed. All right, welcome to both of you. Caitlin, I want to start with you because you are there in New Hampshire. Set the stage for us exactly 1 week before primary day there. Where do these three candidates stand in the Granite State? And is there a chance that the outcome there could be different than it was in Iowa?
Hey, Nancy, great to be with you. Well, we're waiting for Donald Trump to land here in New Hampshire. Fresh off that win in Iowa, he actually headed to New York, where he's facing defamation charges from writer E. Jean Carroll. He wanted to appear there in court, and then he's coming back here to campaign in New Hampshire, where he's going to spend nearly every day this week campaigning here, which that kind of split screen shows you a lot about this campaign. We saw in Iowa that supporters were endeared to him throughout these court challenges. Voters I've been talking to here behind me who are supporting him agree with that. Here in New Hampshire, it was a place that gave Donald Trump a boost in 2016. Remember, he lost Iowa, came to New Hampshire, was catapulted through the primary, and the rest is history. Nikki Haley is looking at New Hampshire for kind of a similar redemption story after coming third in Iowa. She believes the electorate here is more favorable to her. She's been campaigning pretty heavily here, spending a lot of money on air. A super PAC supporting her has been hitting the ground. We followed them earlier this week as they knocked on doors. She thinks the parties, she thinks the independent voters here, the undeclared voters, who make up about 40% of the electorate, can play an outsized role in favor of her. And meanwhile, DeSantis, he actually headed to South Carolina today to try to blunt Haley's momentum after coming in a distant second place to Donald Trump in Iowa.
And I notice you've got a really packed house behind you there in New Hampshire, so clearly a lot of people there looking forward to hearing what Donald Trump has to say. Finn, the demographics in New Hampshire are so different from Iowa. The size of the electorate is very different. Only 110,000 people caucused in Iowa last night. We could see double that number voting in New Hampshire next week. What does all of that mean for the frontrunner, Donald Trump?
What it means is, like as CHP just said, it really is about him being more aggressive. I talked to some of his senior advisors who say that he intends to be more aggressive towards Nikki Haley, who is close to him in some recent polling data that we saw within striking distance, about 7 points away in that CNN poll that we saw just a little while ago. We do expect, as CHP said, more of an independent voter participation. There's about 80,000 more independent voters or undeclared voters than registered Republicans in New Hampshire. So she's really making a play for them, and they really can have that outsized role that Caitlin was talking about. And that is really where the secret sauce is. Who can garner that independent voter in about a week from now?
And Caitlin, it's because of those independent voters in New Hampshire that Nikki Haley is already calling this a two-person race, even though she came in third in Iowa. You actually had a chance to speak with her today about her strategy in New Hampshire. Let's take a listen to that.
So you're coming off Iowa. Yes. What makes New Hampshire different kind of territory for you?
You know, Iowa was great. There were hardworking, patriotic, God-fearing people. And then you come to New Hampshire, and what I love about New Hampshire is they they wear their feelings on their sleeves. They do their homework. They know, but they will tell you exactly what they think. And I love that energy. It's great energy. We've been here for 11 months. We've done 75 plus town halls, answering every question, shaking every hand. And so we're going to continue all this week. We're not stopping until until the last second before the election.
You've described this as a two-person race between yourself and Donald Trump. Does that mean you need to take the case more aggressively to Donald Trump?
Well, I think before there were 14 candidates, and so now we've gotten it down to where there's only 2 serious candidates playing in New Hampshire. And so, yes, it's about the differences between Trump and with me. And I'll tell you, look, we don't want 2 80-year-olds to be our options. More than that, we want to look at the fact that 75% of Americans don't want to see a Biden-Trump rematch. You have to look at the fact that the majority of Americans are not happy with either one of them. And they both put us $1 trillion in debt that our kids will never forgive us for. So let's go forward with a new generational leader. And that's what Granite Staters want. They want to move forward. They don't want to deal with 2 presidential options that are dealing with investigations and grievances. They want somebody who's going to be about results and no drama, and that's what I'm going to give to them.
So, Caitlin, she's making this generational argument there, saying it's time to turn the page. But then today she announces that she is not going to participate in debates in New Hampshire or anywhere else unless Trump starts showing up. So what's the strategy there? Because typically when you're a runner-up or you're in 3rd place, you want to debate because you want that attention, right?
Yeah, Nancy, it's an interesting point because she was supposed to debate Ron DeSantis here in New Hampshire. And I asked her, should DeSantis drop out? And she said, look, I'm only seeing this as me against Donald Trump, and DeSantis is polling low in the polls here. And she wants to just have this direct debate with Trump. If you think about it, Trump's strategy of skipping these debates has proved to be beneficial for him. He hasn't suffered. In fact, as we saw in Iowa last night, he had a resounding victory, widespread support among Republican caucus goers there. So he, was able to not debate, and that actually worked for his advantage. He's a very unique candidate, however. We know that about him, and we know that the rules kind of go by the wayside in terms of kind of political history when it comes to Donald Trump. Her thinking is that she doesn't want to waste her time with DeSantis and wants to make clear that she is taking on Donald Trump. Now, I asked her, as you heard, does that mean that you are going to be more aggressive towards the former president? Because we've seen them, discuss some policy differences, discuss some rhetorical differences, but his challengers haven't really directly attacked him. And so I'm waiting to see whether those kinds of attacks escalate. She is on air here in New Hampshire now with an ad speaking to exactly what she just mentioned there, hoping to turn the page from both Trump and Biden. Trump's support here is very strong. He's leading in all the polls, but she believes that she can be within striking distance because when you look at the polls, if you take Chris Christie out of the picture, they're hoping to absorb his support and come close to Trump.
And I did notice today that she was given a couple of opportunities to go after Trump directly. She was asked, for example, about accusations of sexual abuse, and she totally sidestepped them. Interestingly, both of you, while we've been sitting here talking, some news in our inboxes, ABC is canceling its debate that was supposed to feature at least Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. But because Haley now says that she's not going to debate, obviously Donald Trump is not going to debate, that debate in New Hampshire is now canceled, which will probably be a disappointment to some New Hampshire voters. Finn, I want to play a little bit of what each of these 3 candidates had to say about the outcome in Iowa when they were at their parties last night, and a little bit more about what they're thinking about where things go from here. Take a listen.
I really think this is time now for everybody, our country, to come together. We want to come together, whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together.
They threw everything but the kitchen sink at me during this process. They've spent almost $50 million against me.
I can safely say tonight, Iowa made this Republican primary a 2-person race.
So, Finn, how do you anticipate DeSantis and Haley will treat Trump in New Hampshire? Because you would think that going after him there would play well with independent voters, probably wouldn't have in Iowa. And DeSantis challenged him a little more directly at the end of the Iowa race. What do you see going forward in New Hampshire?
I think that Nikki Haley, and I spoke to some people who are close to her campaign, who say that she does have to get more aggressive, to expect her to get more aggressive. She has the support and endorsement of a very popular governor with Chris Sununu, who is known to have quite the sort of a firebrand touch, if you will, with his rhetoric. He's known to throw those verbal grenades. And I think you have to, in this live free or die state, and you do have more of an appetite there, not only with independents, but they have this contrarian view in the Granite State that's a little bit different here in Iowa than Iowa. Nikki Haley got some criticism for saying that New Hampshire corrects the vote of Iowa, but historically, you do see that. You do see that contrast. And so there's that expectation that she has to really jump into that lane of the anti-Trump lane that exists and exists very strongly, much more so than here in Iowa. So she really has to do that. For DeSantis, yes, he talked about getting his ticket punched, that he got a ticket out of Iowa, and he did. He went to South Carolina, to Nikki Haley's home state, in an effort to tweak her, and then to New Hampshire. But really, he got his ticket punched. He got his ticket out. But where does that ticket go, Nancy? He really doesn't have a path. And I spoke to a lot of top Republicans who tell me that they don't really see a path for him. He doesn't really have the ground game that he had here. He doesn't really have the support that he has here in New Hampshire. He's polling in 4th and 5th place, even with Ramaswamy out, even with others out. I mean, the support for those candidates doesn't really convert to DeSantis supporters, and nor does it in South Carolina. Nikki Haley is really trying to make this a two-person race. You said that, you talked about that, and that is really the strategy that I think you're going to see here. But for Ron DeSantis, Nancy, I think there's a big question mark about where his path leads him and where he sees that path.
Right. And of course, he continues to be dogged by questions about whether he has enough money to keep going, and if so, for how long. Finn Gomez in Iowa, Caitlin Huey-Burns in New Hampshire, thank you both so much tonight.